Okay, welcome everyone. We'll have an amendment to our budget, item 10.3.6, staff report. I'll call this meeting to order and welcome everyone that's in the gallery with us and zooming in from home, and to our members of council and our staff. And we'll ask everyone to rise for O Canada, please. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated, and we will now review our land acknowledgement. As we gather, we are reminded that the municipality of South Huron is situated on Treaty 29 land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. As a community, we have a responsibility to honor and respect this territory's significance for the Indigenous peoples who lived and continue to live upon it, and whose practices and spiritualities were tied to the land and continue to develop in relationship to the territory and its other inhabitants today. In the spirit of reconciliation and truth, we acknowledge the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples on whose traditional territory we are meeting. Thank you. Item number 3, Ms. Masuo-Collison.
That South Huron Council approves the agenda as presented.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, second by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Call a question. All in favor? That carries of 7. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof for members of council. Are there any disclosures at this time? Okay, and I have one under 10.3.1, and the item thereof is I own property on that stretch of road, and I provide the declaration of interest now. And now we recognize Mr. Dietrich. Welcome him for our Drainage Act meeting. Welcome, Mr. Dietrich. And we'll just turn to Ms. Masuo-Collison.
The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the technical aspects of the Kint's Knight Municipal Drain. Council will entertain questions regarding the work proposed in the report and or the total cost of work. Complaints regarding individual assessments will not be dealt with at tonight's meeting. But after the provisional bylaw is passed, another meeting called the Court of Revision will be held. If someone wishes to appeal their assessment, they may do so by filing a notice with the clerk at least 10 days prior to the first sitting of the Court of Revision. Notices of the Court of Revision will be mailed out to everyone assessed into the drain.
Now we introduce Mr. Dietrich. Welcome again. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Good friend of South Huron, and we look forward to your report.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor Finch and members of council and landowners on the drain. I think we have one in the back in the gallery. The report that I'm going to be presenting this evening is called the Kint's Knight Municipal Drain. There's the plan that's attached to the back of the report is up on the screen, and I'll just review some of the information that's on that drawing. Just a bit of background information. Our firm was originally appointed under Section 78 of the Drainage Act for prepare a drainage report for repairs and improvements to the Kint's Knight Drain. The existing drain is a tile system that was installed back in 1973 under a report that was prepared by A.M. Spreit Associates. And at that time, there was 2,000 feet of 6-inch to 12-inch diameter tile installed to provide an outlet for the watershed area that's shown on the plan. The drainage area is approximately 35.2 hectares of land, and it involves parts of 3 different farms. And to get to where we're at today, we had originally we had an on-site meeting back in December, and then we had another public meeting to review our proposal and the cost estimates back here in March 1st. And that was held here at the municipal office. So our proposal then is to install and replace the existing drainage system with 590 meters of 300 millimeter to 350 millimeter diameter tile. And there'll be 2 catch basins installed in line on the drain, one at the upper end of the drain and one at the lower end. The outlet for this drainage system is in the Elanville municipal drain down on the Rainin farm. And the upper end of the drain is at the property line between the McBride and the Kintz farm. The estimated cost for this project is estimated, and this includes the construction costs, the allowances for right-of-way and damages to lands and crops, and administration costs. We've estimated this project at $85,900. And the costs are broken down in the report, and there's a schedule of assessment for payment. So maybe at this point in time, if there's any questions regarding the work that's being planned here, I'd be pleased to answer those.
Certainly. Are there any questions from members of council at this time? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you. Ms. Masuda-Paulson? Are there any questions from the members of the audience in the gallery? No, didn't believe there was. Okay, thank you. And we'll go to a resolution then.
Okay. That South Huron Council receives a presentation by Mr. W. Dietrich, PN, and that South Huron Council authorizes staff to initiate the tender process following the Court of Revision and expiry of any applicable appeal periods, if required, for the new drainage systems known as the Kintz Night Municipal Drain 2023.
As a mover for that, Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Denemy. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries us 7. Thank you. Ms. Masuda-Paulson.
If anyone who has signed the petition wishes to withdraw from the petition, they may do so by putting the withdrawal in writing, signing it and filing it with the clerk. Anyone who has not signed a petition may add their name to the petition if they wish.
And again, I'll ask, are there any questions regarding this project from members of council? Members of the gallery? Not seeing any. Thank you. We'll thank all those who attended. Thank you very much, Mr. Dietrich. Well done.
Have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Okay, and then we'll now welcome our friends from the Legion. Good to see John and Bonnie out tonight. Feel free to begin whenever you're ready to, John.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Finch and Deputy Mayor Dietrich and members of council. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm John Corbett, the branch president of the Exeter Legion, as well as the Zone C1 commander for the Royal Canadian Legion. With me tonight is Bonnie Green LaFond, daughter of the late Sir Murray Green, a World War II veteran and a life member of the Exeter Legion. You may not be aware, but the Legion's mission statement is simply as follows. Our mission is to serve veterans, including serving military and RCMP members and their families, to promote remembrance and to serve our communities and our country. Some of the examples of what the Exeter Legion has done to support and continue with remembrance are as follows. Our service officer has driven several veterans to various appointments. We have our provincial service officer come down to the branch twice a year to meet one-on-one with those veterans who may need our assistance. We take Christmas baskets yearly to all our veterans, regardless if they are a Legion member or not. and to all our widows of our veterans. During the COVID pandemic, we delivered roast beef dinners as well for Remembrance Day to all our veterans and their families. We conduct our yearly Poppy campaign, a Remembrance Day service and banquet, as well as our school visits. In our hall, we have 60 or more pictures, and I can update that, 62 pictures to be exact, of World War I and World War II veterans, all drawn by Exeter native Harry Burke. We have a veteran plot in the Exeter Cemetery, a monument out in Huron Park in honor of the RCAF, as well as a cenotaph located here at the municipal office with the names of all those who have fallen, including those of the 161st Huron Battalion. However, there is another program we must get off the ground here tonight, and that is the reason I am here, and that is our Memorial Banner Program. What the banner program is, basically pictures of veterans with their date of service and the conflict they served. The program basically works after you give me your approval tonight. I'll go to work with the designer and come up with a design of choice or one of the designs they currently have. Then the families of any veteran, deceased or living, will then be allowed to apply for the banner program through the Exeter Legion. Then we send it on to the company for processing. You may have seen some of these in neighboring communities such as Seaforth, Brussels, Godrich, Lucknow, Palmerston, and the originating town, Harriston, just to name a few. I've been asked by many why we don't have these in Exeter. I simply have to tell you folks that a few years ago, prior to COVID, I was approached by the BIA at that time if we'd be interested, and I said we would be. When I asked the questions of how many polls we could get at that time, the answer was 9. As I stated earlier, we alone have 62 plus portraits in our main hall of veterans, not including those from the 161st Huron Battalion, nor the 35 current veterans we have in the community that we serve. Of those 35, we still have 2 World War II veterans with us. One you may know very well, Vera Armstrong, who I wish I could remember how old she turns this year, but it's either 98 or 99, and she does not look it. And also Lawrence Marks. So at that time, I went back to my executive and asked if anyone on our executive was willing to decide on only 9 veterans out of the numbers I've given you tonight. And we would go ahead, but the answer was simply no, we could not. Then it was suggested by the BIA at that time to put one veteran on one side and another one on another side. That only brings the number up to 18. Still not good enough for us at that time. So you may ask what has changed now and why I'm here again tonight. Simply put, this lady with me tonight wants her daddy on one of the polls in this town. So I am here to get Sir Murray Green on a poll in a town, which he served this town on this town council as well. We also have another veteran who you may know by the name of Barb Willard, who also served this town on this town council. We've had numerous veterans do amazing things for this community, including the late Bill Doherty, who was instrumental in the refurbishing of the cenotaph out in front of the town hall, as well as both the late Eric Haywood and the late Ron Helm could be called upon to give anyone in this community a history lesson of any conflict or what the Legion is. So here's my proposal to you, Town Council. I've already secured all the polls in town through the BIA. I have suggested to the BIA, we hang these banners the last Friday of October, which is the start of the annual Poppy campaign for the Legion, to 1 week after Remembrance Day, give or take. What I require from Town Council is for you to approve the hanging of the banners the last Friday of October, and if it would make most sense, you could bringing them down when the Christmas lights go up. You already have the equipment out already. All you would need to do is plan to hang them up, and I've given you the start date, the last Friday of October. Do I know how many polls we would need right off the bat? I simply cannot answer that tonight. It would all be based on how the program gets off the ground. My hope here now is you all vote on this now so I can go to work tomorrow on getting this banner program off the ground. I understand maybe of bylaws or rules to which you may have to follow to not allow a vote. However, we're discussing men and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to be here tonight to discuss this. They did so without any hesitation and sometimes without a choice. Also, I really do not think this would affect town council's budget to do this. I thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. And if you can see, there have been some banners up going through. And just a reminder, the late Sir Murray Green. Thank you for your time.
Very well done, John. Very well done. Any questions for John or Bonnie? And I want to thank Bonnie's too for, for coming out tonight too. It's great to see you out for sure. Any questions for either of them? Councillor Neave, go ahead.
Just more of a comment. I think it's a great idea. It's definitely worthwhile to pursue. The one question I had was as far as procuring the banners. Because I remember just from being on the BIA that there had been some issues with banners in the past blowing off, and I'm not quite sure if how they went about making sure that they would be repaired as well. That could also become an issue depending on the type of banner. And I was just wondering if that had been procurement and type had been sorted out.
They use a heavy duty full color double-sided material. How they'd be secured is they're on standard 30 by 60 inch banners. The existing poles are there already. The hooks are already there. How to stop them from coming off, that I could not answer. That would probably be an issue for when they're hung up to make sure that there would be no way that they would blow off.
And John, just to clarify, the actual brackets are on the poles now?
Correct.
Okay, good. Okay. Any questions? Oh, I think it's a fantastic idea. And the fact that we are sitting here in a free society is because of our veterans, quite honestly. So we'll have to turn to Ms. Maxwell Collison as to process. We can't make a vote tonight, John, just so you know, but maybe she could just explain how that works.
Yeah, the any kind of procedural matter here is dealt with at the next meeting. We bring it forward again.
2
It's a
weeks
general
from now.
process.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's fine. Look forward to it. Any other comments? No? Any comments from members of council? Great. Thanks very much, John and Bonnie, for coming out
Thank you.
tonight. And thank you for your service. Okay, we turn to the recommendation, please.
That South Huron Council receives a delegation from the Exeter Legion as presented by John Corbett and Bonnie Green-Lapond.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Denemy. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. And we welcome our friends from the Federation of Agriculture here in county.
Hi there. We are on, that's good. I'm Teresa Van Ray. So I farm just outside of Dashwood. We farm corn, soys, wheat, pigs and garlic. And today I'm here at my capacity as a director of Ontario Federation of Agriculture. I'm going to turn it over to Rob.
I'm Rob Vandenhengel. I'm the current vice president on the Huron County Federation of Agriculture and the past president as well. I have a dairy and cash crop farm just north of Seaforth in Huron East.
Oh, and I'm Murray Workman. I'm the current president of the HCFA, and I farm just north of Kippen on Highway 4, and I'm a cash crop farmer as well. So I'll just go to the next slide, please. So the Huron County Federation of Agriculture, we work in an advocacy role on behalf of about 2,000 family members. So working on behalf of these members, we aim to work proactively on issues that are faced by our members and even possibly opportunities within Huron County. Huron County farmers become members of the HCFA when they reside in Huron County and join the OFA.
Next slide. So OFA lobbies on behalf of 38,000 farm families, independent of government. But all three general farm organizations are regulated under the Farm Registration and Farm Organizations Funding Act. OFA values a working relationship with both the Western and the Eastern Ontario Wardens caucuses. One of the things that we really enjoy doing at OFA is attending the Roma Convention. And I would ask if any of you have any contacts or ability to get us on the agenda at Roma, that would be really appreciated. We do think there's a lot of synergies with the municipalities and our agriculture. OFA policy development originates from both our local federations and extensive research. Our policies are an example of where OFA and Huron County Federation of Agriculture work collaboratively together, but we are very independent organizations. Both OFA and HCFA develop policies on topics that impact agriculture and our members. We have provided copies of the Agriculture Matters guides in your packages tonight. I'm just confirming that is there. Yes, good. Previously, good. Yeah, Margaret is very good. She keeps us in line. These guides provide background, resource, and policies related to numerous topics. While this guide provides OFA's current policies, not all OFA policies and the Huron County Federation policies are the same, as certain cases and areas are specific. And as you know, the land in Northern Ontario is very different than Huron County. Next slide. One of our big things that we've got going is our homegrown campaign. This campaign has over 70,000 individual petitions signed on it that they are supporting the good, protecting our farmland in Ontario. One of the things, if you go comparing 2011 and 2016 census, we showed a decline in the area of farms from 12.3 million acres in 2016 to 11.7 in 2021. This is equaling a loss of 116,000 acres of land, or 319 acres per day. Once we pave it over the land, we can't get it back. So it's very important that we have our food security, and that's one way to do it. And I do know that you guys talk a lot about that because you're very close to the land, and just reiterating to your friends all around that this is important. We are losing a lot of productive class 1, 2, and 3 land. And what we need to do then, we understand that that we have to have housing. And I know that on our farm, we need housing to house workers. And there's a number of other farmers that have people that live around that they work on the farm. But they have to have affordable housing, but we are encouraging that we grow smart and not sprawl. And so it is up to you guys to make sure that the plan is in place. And we really want to work with you to do that. So we're not against, we are on the same page as you and want to work together on that one. Next slide.
So this slide looks like there's a lot going on, but basically what it shows is this separation between the Huron County Federation of Agriculture, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, and what we work on together. So some examples of what we've done locally as the Huron County Federation is what Teresa had previously mentioned about the Municipal Matters Guide that you all just received this fall, and everybody running in the election in the fall, right? Sorry, you got the matters this winter, and in the fall, everybody that within the county that stated that they were willing to run for position as a councillor, they also received a copy of it. So if they were successful in waking up on council, they had a copy of that to begin with. Something else that we did this fall is within Huron County, we distributed over 1,100 Real Dirt on Farming magazines to every student in grades 7 and 8 within the county. And so that's in 18 schools. There was also guides for the teachers on where the magazines and curriculums align for activities. Another activity that we started last fall that we hope will really get going this spring is field commodity recognition signage. So you may have seen some of them they're either on the local highways, so like Highway 4 or Highway 8, or on the bigger county roads.
83.
83, thank you. Sorry, the numbers are missing me right now. And it's just a sign saying what crop is present in the field and what the uses for the crop are. So we had signs for corn, soybeans, edible beans, pasture, hay, and cover crop. So that on the highways and county roads in here, we know, especially on long weekends or on weekends, there's a lot of people from the cities or urban areas, or even people from right in, say, Exeter here themselves. They're not really sure what crop is being grown. So this is just an easy way to put out there saying, this is what's grown, this is what it's used for. And another thing we did is last Friday, we had our local politicians day, where we had Lisa Thompson and Ben Lauber present, along with local politicians from, there were two here, Mayor Finch and Councillor Oak were present at it, and also from all the other lower tier municipalities were present as well. And all the local commodity groups were present as well to say what our concerns were and everything like that. So I'd like to thank South Huron representatives that were present for the day. And those are just some of the local things that we do with the County Federation.
Next slide. So there are various ways that you can connect with the HCFA or the OFA. So you can feel free to look us up on social media. There's lots of ongoing updates on various activities. And additionally, you can contact me or any of the other directors with any concerns or ideas for something that we can do in the future. So continue on to the next slide. So yeah, we just want to thank you for your time today, and feel free again to reach out to us whenever you have any questions or any opportunities related to agriculture. We want to work collaboratively with you and strengthen our local community.
Great. Thank you very much. Well done. Good presentation for sure. And we're always strong when we work together. When we work as part, we're not going to accomplish anything. And that's been seen many times over the past in Ontario. So any questions for folks here tonight? Deputy?
Just a comment, and I agree. We need to start building up. We're taking way too much agricultural land out of production, and down the road, not very far, it's going to bite us. We're not going to have our food here. We're going to be importing from other countries. That so I agree 100%. We need to go up.
Good point. Thank you very much, Deputy. Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation tonight. Great. And thanks again for last Friday for organizing the event. As I said earlier, all the commodity groups are well versed in when they're speaking about their industries and overarching association that you guys represent of all the organizations. So it was a good day and a lot of valuable information, even for myself that's involved in agriculture every day, but there's always some things you pick up. So thank you.
Any other comments? And yeah, again, great day on Friday there. And of course, you can see Mr. Thompson and MP Lobb are very engaged. The fact that they show up and attend that and very prepared for the meeting is a testament to their dedication to agriculture and here in County. So we're very fortunate to have them in their roles. If there's nothing else, we thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
And Ms. Masuda Collison, please.
That South Huron Council receives a delegation from the Huron County Federation of Agriculture and Ontario Federation of Agriculture as presented by Teresa Van Ray, Rob Van Dengel, Murray Workman.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oak, second by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries with 7. Thanks very much. Okay, moving right along. No public meetings, so 8.1, Ms. Masuda Collison.
The South Huron Council adopts the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 20th, 2023 as printed and circulated.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Danamy, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 8.2.
The South Huron Council adopts the minutes of the council workshop meeting of March 13th, 2023 as printed and circulated.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 9.1 and on.
That the minutes, reports, agendas, or financial statements of the following committees and or boards be received as presented to council. Osebo Bayfield Conservation Authority 2022 audited financial statements and newsletter of March 27th, 2023. Blue Water Recycling Association Board of Directors meeting highlights of March 16th, 2023. Court of Revision, March 2023 minutes. Exeter Rodeo Committee, January 19th, 2023 minutes. Police Services Board, February 14th, 2023 minutes. January 2023 monthly report, and Police Services Board comments on a council resolution. Upper Thames River Conservation Authority Board meeting agenda package of March 28th, 2023.
And a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Neeb, seconded by Counselor Dietrich. Any discussion? Counselor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a comment to the chair of ABCA. Just wanted to, and maybe I've missed it in the past, the newsletter that's attached to our package there. I like the newsletter. I don't know if that's a new initiative or I don't think I've seen one where it's a municipal newsletter. So just thought I'd say thank you for putting that together if it's something new or if I haven't seen it before, so or noticed it before. So thank you.
Oh, microphone. Sorry, microphone. Thanks.
So the municipal newsletter there for the drinking water source protection, that newsletter.
Yeah, I don't think it's new, Ted, but I don't know that they come out like every month, like the ABCA ones do. Just usually when something big news, and with the 2 new players. Yeah, that was kind of big. So, but thanks. I'll pass that on.
Great, thank you. Counselor Neeb, you had something. Go ahead. Oh, microphone, please.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Finch. Through just a question for the rodeo committee. There's 2 recommendations within the minutes, and I'm just curious whether those need to be pulled out or whether those can just stay within the minutes and us adopting them validate the recommendations.
Okay, Ms. Masula Carlson, or Deputy, did you want to take that? Who'd like to take that? Ms. Masula, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Now, as far as the 9.1 for the rodeo contract, that one is, council did approve it already. So that one doesn't need to be pulled out. Now, as far as the Saddle Club sponsorship, it should be pulled out for council approval.
Go ahead.
So if after we get through this, could we then make a motion, or does that have to be included?
Nope, we can, after this, the motion that's on the table here is passed, then we can bring it forward if that's something.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Any other questions on the current motion before us? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries of 7. And then Councilor Neeb, you had something? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we sponsor the Saddle Club through the rodeo committee.
Is there a seconder for that, please? Deputy Mayor and Ms. Masula Carlson, did you want to read that or are you satisfied?
That council approved the $100 division award for the division winner with highest points to the Exeter Saddle Club.
Moved and seconded. If there's any discussion, call the question. All in favor? That carries of 7. Thank you. Very good. And moving right along, 10.1. And
Mike has turned.
go ahead, Mr. Wolf. Good to see you.
Good morning,
We'll just-
good evening.
We'll just read the resolution first here, Mike, and then we'll get you to speak to it. Go ahead, Ms. Masula Carlson.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Mike Rolfe, Director of Building and Planning Services, Chief Building Official, Rebuild 23, More Homes Built Faster Act, for information.
And is there a mover for that, please? Moved by Councilor Neeb, second by Councilor Oak, and discussion. Councilor Neeb, you have a question for Mr. Rolfe? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mike, for the comprehensive report and all the data to go along with it. There's definitely a lot of major changes that Bill 23 brings. In your report, you mentioned the bottlenecks in the system and identifying bottlenecks in the system. In order to, sometimes if there's a new development under this act, if there's less than 10 residential units, we're not able to do site plan work anymore in order to figure out that. So I know we're going to be identifying the flow rates and looking at the entire system as a whole. My question is, once we do that, are there any mechanisms that we can put into place in order to ensure that development pays for the upgrades to those bottlenecks as opposed to the taxpayer?
Mr. Wolf, go ahead, please.
Through you, Mayor Finch, and excellent question, and that's every municipalities and cities conundrum at this point. As you mentioned, typically development pays for development. However, due to Bill 23, that's not the case for development of less than 10 residential units. We are going through a fees and charges bylaw study this year, and it will be one of the questions that we will be asking the consultant, that whether or not this is a fee, whether it's a flat fee, rate fee, however that works, that could be added to our fees and charges bylaw. If it's not, then maybe we'd have to look at something like the development agreement, putting holding symbols on vacant properties, and only be lifted if there's a development agreement entered into. But currently, at this point in time, we do not have a mechanism to recover those fees if it was to come up.
No, thank you. I think there'll be probably more to come with that once we go through the identifying the flow rates and all of that. So thank you.
Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Mike. As Councillor Neeb said, a lot of information there. And just a couple things that I pulled out. One question I have is, do we need to update our DC bylaw? Because right now it goes till 2030, but with all the changes that are going on, will that be something that needs to be updated in the next period of time here?
Mr. Wolf?
Through you, Mayor. No, we don't have a plan to update our DC bylaw at this point. All the legislations that came through are enacted as of right now. So we will not be updating our DC bylaw.
Thank you. Follow up.
Yeah, thank you. And a follow-up question. There's a couple spots where they suggested that we need to spend so much of our reserve each year. Parkland was an example. Spend 60% of the reserve each year. And so are we looking at how that would how we'd move forward doing that, or is that something that has to start in 2023, or does it kick into the next year?
Mr. Wolf?
Through you, Mayor. It kicks in this year. We need to either spend or allocate 60% of our reserves, and like what we gather through that year. It is something that we'll be discussing with the treasurer and obviously staff to see where that allocation is best fit, whether it's in Parkland, like you said, or as well as the DC charges also have to be either spent or allocated annually.
Follow up, Mr. Oak? Oh, Ms. Masulla-Carlson, sorry, go ahead.
And to my knowledge, in talking to Treasury, this is something that we've already been doing. It's just to make a standard across the province. The allocation piece, we have already been doing that.
Great, good. Thank you very much. Mr. Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so thank you. And one last comment, or with all the changes, I guess, and there's still more to come, or digesting the information more to come. I guess my hope is that we'll have a bit clearer picture of what's going on as far as the numbers prior to this year's budget, as we start working towards like the 2024 budget. Hopefully we'll have more knowledge as they introduce or let us know more about what they're introducing here. So
Great, thank you. Any comments, Mr. Wolf, on that? Nope.
No, sir.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Wolf? Okay, not seeing any. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much. And we go to 10.1.2 now. Mr. Masulla-Carlson.
The South Huron Council received this report from Mike Ralph, Director of Building and Planning, Chief Building Official, regarding the enactment of a building bylaw, and that South Huron Council authorized the building bylaw be brought forward to the next council meeting for the required 3 readings.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oak, second by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Comments for Mr. Rolfe? Ms. Vaughn, go ahead.
Yes, Mike, is this a new bylaw for us or an amended bylaw as a result of Bill 23 changes?
Mr. Rolfe?
Through you, Mayor. This is it's a new building bylaw. South Huron did have a building bylaw in the past, which was rescinded in a few years back. It is updated for Bill 23 though.
Follow?
Yes. Okay, so I'm just wondering the workload that'll come as a result of passing this bylaw. Is this a significant amount of work on behalf, like from the staff's perspective? And also too, does this also mean an additional step for some of our public, our applicants, to have to go through that they weren't going through before we passed the bylaw?
Mr. Rolfe?
Through you, Mayor. Excellent questions, Councillor Vaughn. First, there won't be any more workload to staff. These are processes that we go through now. It's just basically laying them out in the building bylaw for transparency for everyone. And then as well, on the other end of the spectrum, it's no more work for our customers, our developer stakeholders. Again, they are currently doing everything that's in this bylaw, and it's just laying it out and being transparent.
Follow?
Okay, so just one more. Obviously, Bill 23 was taking away certain red tape, if you will, from the municipality, so building could proceed faster. Could it be seen that introducing this bylaw is a way to reintroduce a certain amount of red tape to give us kind of a state of what we would prefer to see in building practice?
Mr. Rolfe, comment?
Through you, Mayor. The 2 major components that were introduced into this bylaw due to the implementation of Bill 23 would be the requirement for a lot grading and drainage design, as well as functional servicing reports. And those are for developments, residential developments between 3 units and 10 units. Anything above 10 units, as you alluded to, would be within the site plan control process. So is it implementing some provisions that were removed from the site plan process? Yes, but those provisions are extremely important. As you can imagine, most of our concerns do come from lot grading and drainage issues. Improperly drainage onto your neighboring property, and it's nothing but arguments from the get-go, and obviously the municipality gets brought into those arguments in perpetuity. And the other one is functional servicing reports, and we need to know what that development is producing and how or whether or not our system can hold it, can withstand the added effluent and the needed water of that development. So the 2 components in this bill are extremely important, and they're 2 components that we need.
Follow, Councillor Vaughn?
Okay, I'm trying to follow everything that you're saying, but I'm not sure I'm clear on whether through this bill or bylaw, rather, we're introducing components that were taken away in Bill 23. Are we bringing them back to life?
Mr. Rolfe?
Through you, Mayor. Essentially, yes. And again, that is for the lot grading and drainage of these developments. Again, you need to make sure that they are containing, what we say is it's the pre and post the pre and post stormwater created from that development does not change. So we're not impacting the neighboring properties in any way, shape, or form that would be of a hindrance. And again, with our servicing. We need to make sure that our infrastructure can handle it. And the only way to do that is through these functional servicing reports.
Thank you. Councillor Vaughn, any follow-up on that?
And I'm just trying to reconcile in my own mind, if we can be held to account. Because of, like, I understand why it's really important for the municipality to have proper rules and procedures and governance over what is actually happening, particularly in drainage issues. So that we're not inundated with neighborhood complaints and damage to neighboring property type of thing. But I'm just wondering, are we going to be held to account for reintroducing something Bill 23 took away?
Through you, Mayor, if I may. So we did have the entire bylaw sent for legal review. And there was no concerns regarding those items put in there for these developments between 3 and 10 units. So it has been reviewed by our legal counsel.
Okay.
Councillor Vaughn, you're satisfied with that?
We have a legal viewpoint to that effect. Do we have that in writing?
Mr. Rolfe? Yeah. Ms. Masood
Through you, Mayor.
Collins, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
We received it with the draft bylaw after it was reviewed.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rolfe. Any other questions? Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and just to follow up with Councillor Vaughn's line of questioning, the timelines of these new bills where they're, you know, you have to have a certain process done within so many days and that, and just wondering whether this bylaw would hurt our timeline on any of the items that we have to follow through on with some of the things that we're reintroducing here, whether that'll hurt us on our meeting our guidelines or our timelines that we're supposed to follow without having to refund fees and different things if we don't meet those guidelines.
Mr. Rolfe?
Through you, Mayor. So the timelines you're alluding to were implemented in Bill 109, and those are for timelines for OP amendments, so official plan amendments, zoning bylaw amendments, as well as site plan control. The added documents within the building bylaw will be at building permit stage. So it's not adding timelines or reducing timelines for that matter for the Bill 109. There will be no reduction in fees. However, it is a required document that will need to have a complete application. And at that point, our timelines stay the same to review and issue that permit. So the Bill 109 time, sorry, Mayor, so Bill 109 timelines, it won't affect them at all. It just has staff a little bit more review on the lot grading and drainage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Rolfe? Okay, not seeing any. Thank you very much, Mike. Well done. Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Very good. And then we go to 10.2 and then 10.3. And I have a conflict at 10.3. Mr. Phil Collison, Mr. Dietrich.
Ten point three, you want to go ahead?
That South Huron Council received the report from Don Giberson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, and Shane Timmermans, Manager of Transportation Services, Re-engineering Services for William Street Reconstruction Project. And that South Huron Council amend the GM Blue Plan Engineering Services Agreement in the amount of $81,000 plus HST for professional services related to William Street Reconstruction Project.
Okay, can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Vaughn. Okay, questions? Any questions? Councillor Dietrich.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. That 81,000, Is that for the complete job or just engineering fees?
I'll let Mr. Giverson answer that. Good evening, Don.
Good evening. Through you, Deputy Mayor Dietrich. These are the engineering fees only related to construction inspection services and project management of the project.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, I'm going to call a question. All in favor? That's carried with 6. Thank you, Mr. Giverson.
Great. Okay, move right along, 10.3.2.
The South Huron Council received the report from Don Giverson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, and Alyssa Keller, Manager of Environmental Services, RE 2020 to 2022 Annual Kirkton Landfill Close Status Report.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Dietrich, second by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. And nice to see that we're able to stretch the reporting out. Thank you for getting that continuing to take place. Just a question on the MW5. Obviously, it's going to be abandoned or decommissioned, but MW4, MW7, and MW8, it says are damaged and need to be repaired. And is that those repairs, any idea on the cost, and are they included in a budget that we have set aside for that?
Turn to staff, Mr. Giverson or Ms. Keller, who would like to take that? Mr. Giverson, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch. All of those monitoring wells do need some protection, and the repairs are minor repairs. So that is underway as part of the operating budget to arrange for a licensed well drilling company to do the necessary repairs. And then the operations staff will put the necessary protection in place. So it's included in our 2023 operating budget to carry out that work. And Alyssa's got it on her list of things to do.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any other questions for staff? Okay, not seeing it. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, call the question. All in favor? That carries a 7. Great. 10.3.3.
That South Huron Council received the report from Don Giverson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, and Alyssa Keller, Manager of Environmental Services, Engineering Services for Huron Street East Water Main Replacement, Morrison Line to Usborne Yard, and that South Huron Council amend the GM Blue Plan Engineering Services Agreement to add $25,000 plus HST for professional services related to Huron Street East Water Main Replacement, Morrison Line to Usborne Yard.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Denemy. Discussion. Not seeing any. Call the question. All in favor? That carries a 7. Thank you. 10.3.4.
At South Huron Council received the report from Don Giverson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development. Contract extension for 2023 CCTV sewer inspection and flushing services. And that South Huron Council authorized the extension of Pipe Tech Infrastructure Services, Inc. contract for 2023 CCTV inspection and sewer flushing in the amount of $77,918.04, including HST. That South Huron Council authorize an amendment to GM Blue Plan Engineering Services contract to provide support services for the 2023 CCTV inspection and sewer flushing program in the amount of $22,081.92, including HST.
And is there a mover, please? Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Ebe. Any discussion? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, just a question on the financial impact. There's a statement here that says this was included in 2023 budget for $100,000 a part of the asset management budget. Such budget is prorated to various departments based on asset management profiles. And so my question is really, what is the asset management budget and where actually is that? I don't recall where that, I don't know where that is.
I see Maggie just popped in there. Hi, Maggie. Do you want to give that? Do you want to respond to that?
Sure, I can. Through your Mayor Finch. So South Huron has had a dedicated asset management budget since 2018. So it's not listed as a separate budget line per se. It's rolled up into everybody's budget. So from 2018 to 2022, the whole asset management budget was shared across our core asset categories. So water, sewer, roads were the big ones, with roads having, road services, bridges and culverts, and the storm side of things. The 2023 budget expanded the reach of the asset management budget to include all asset categories. So the asset management budget is now shared across non-core asset categories as well. So our recreation and our fire side as well. It's rolled into everybody's contracted service budget lines and their wages and benefits. So within contracted services, wages and benefits includes that asset management budget.
Follow up, Councillor Vaughn?
Okay, so in each department's operating budget under contracted services, there's an element called asset management. Is that what I'm hearing?
In fact, go ahead, Maggie. Yep.
Through you, Mayor Finch. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And that money comes from those small 25 basis, 50 basis, 91 basis point pieces that we've been tacking on to the budget as capital expenses. Like, where does that money come from?
Go ahead, Ms. Delbridge. Yeah.
Yep. Through you, Mayor Finch. So it comes from everybody's operating budgets. So when you see someone's operating budget and there's a line for contracted services, that amount includes their portion of the asset management budget, as well as in the wages and benefits. It includes, it includes the asset management wages and benefits as well. So it's not the dedicated levy that we've been adding a little bit to each year. This is the asset management budget. And we track it internally to make sure it's being used specifically for asset management purposes, but it's rolled into everybody's either contracted services or wages and benefits budget.
Okay, so we would never see these things as capital projects. They would just be coming out of operating expenses.
Go ahead, Maggie.
Yep, through your Mayor Finch. Yep, these are operating expenses. So we don't, on the asset management side of things, it's an asset management project, but we wouldn't capitalize the cost to put it into our asset management plan. It helps us operate our asset management program.
Follow up, Councillor Vaughn?
I'm not sure what else to ask right now.
Okay, no worries.
I just hadn't realized that it was being handled this way, that there was this bucket of money called asset management operating that was spread out amongst all of the different departments under consulting services. I just, Maggie, one more question. How big is this budget? Like, if you took all of these monies out of all of the different departments, what's the bucket of money for asset management?
Go ahead.
Yep.
In operating?
Yep, through your Mayor Finch. So it's 175,000. From what I could easily pull, it's been 175 for the 2020, 2021, and 2022 budget years. I'd have to dig a little further to pull the 2018 and 2019 figures. But yeah, it's been here since 2018.
Okay, and that's about what it is every year. So every year we just budget for that amount of money.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Meg.
Thank you. Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, and thanks for the report as well. Just a question in it, talked about the contractor, the unit price that where Pipe Tech is getting. is the 2022 price plus 10% increase, or that's what we're projecting. And it's comparing it to CPI for CCTV inspection services, and it's saying it's lower than that. I guess, is there there's a CPI for CCTV inspection services, an inflation factor someplace that gets reported that we compare that to?
Maggie, do you want to take that? Or who wants to take that? Don, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch. Yes, that is correct. There's a construction price index for all types of construction related costs, including CCTV inspection. And of interest to council, every reconstruction project that includes sewer work has a unit price for CCTV, like cleaning and CCTV inspection. So it's a very common item for construction.
Follow up, go ahead.
So just to clarify, that CPI is for construction, not for CCTV inspection services solely.
Through you, Mayor Finch, just to clarify, that is for CCTV work. So in our reconstruction projects, as one of the unit price items of work is after the sewer is installed, they are all cameraed. So there's a CCTV inspection of all sewers, and there's a unit price for that work. So capturing this type of work where you are flushing the sewer and doing closed circuit TV inspection is common on all reconstruction projects as a separate price, unit price that can be tracked, and a construction price index attached to.
Follow up, Councilor Oak, any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
I guess so we're comparing the price from 2022, and my comment is that we're increasing at 10% over 2022, and based on a lot of the tenders that we're getting in right at the moment, the tender prices are all coming in lower than 2022 in a lot of cases. So would this service have actually come down in 2023 versus the 2022 tendering?
Mr. Iverson?
Through you, Mayor Finch. No, I don't think that's an accurate portrayal of what's happening with the tendering. The tender prices that we're receiving are less than what the engineers were forecasting for 2023. We're getting prices that are higher than 2022 prices for almost everything that we're tendering. But what was forecasted and projected for 2023, we are seeing better prices than that. But we're not seeing prices lower than last year's prices.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you very much. Okay, 10.3.5. Ms. Collison.
That South Huron Council received the report from Don Giberson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, Wastewater Collection System Model, and that South Huron Council approved the single source procurement method with GM Blue Plan Engineering to build and validate a wastewater collection system model and authorize the award of a professional services contract to GM Blue Plan Engineering for these services.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, second by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, my questions are again around the financial impact and yeah. So we're looking at this as a potential single source procurement type of process. And I don't exactly see, even though it says right here that this is in the 2023 budget, where this particular software program might be in the budget. So I guess the first question is it an operating expense that we can't see because it's in some category? Because I don't know where it is under the capital. And I'm thinking I'm just trying to understand, is software an operating expense or is that a capital expense? Like maybe you could go through some of that with me.
Mr. Giverson, do you want to respond to that?
Through you, Mayor Finch, well, I'm going to need a little bit of assistance from our acting director of finance for our financial services, because I'm certainly not the expert on the money end. But the funds are available within the approved budget. I'm not even going to try to attempt to explain where the money is coming from, but the money is in the approved budget. It's not capital, and the work involved is more than just purchasing the software. There's a fair bit of work involved in building this model, including a significant amount of field work to acquire data that we currently don't have in order to build this computer model. And this model is of vital importance to the municipality. It is the tool that we are going to use when we receive development applications for intensification of properties throughout the sewer collection system. So earlier tonight, when Mike, our CBO, was referring to, or there was a discussion about bottlenecks within the system, this is the tool that's required to identify those bottlenecks, and will also then identify what the required upgrades that are associated with those bottlenecks, because all of them are not easily solvable, and some of them can be very expensive. And there's a significant amount of liability attached to allowing development to occur in certain areas of the municipality where we cannot prove that the capacity is there in the pipes in that particular location. So this is the tool that's necessary for us to do this job and to protect the liability of the municipality. Time is also of the essence because Bill 23 has been enacted, and we are already seeing an increase in these intensifications, less than 10 dwelling units. So I would defer to Maggie to explain where the money is coming from. So it's all yours, Maggie.
Okay, actually, Maggie, just before you attempt to answer that question, I just would like to go back to Don. I'm not asking questions or questioning the business rationale for why this is required. So I don't want you to think that. What I am questioning is the statements made under the financial impact, because I don't understand where we're getting the money. Like if we're getting this from an operating budget or we're getting this from a capital budget, if it's a new program and it's software and it's a major in the field consulting type of project, I'm just mentally trying to understand why that's not a capital expense. And I don't recall approving it at budget time. So Maggie, please enlighten me.
Go ahead, Ms. Delbridge. Looking forward to your response.
Okay, through you, Mayor Finch. So the funds for this project are budgeted through the operating budget. Software isn't something that we would consider capital, even though it is a very costly thing. Capital, we want to touch it. So tangible capital assets, things that we can touch. So it's not considered a capital asset, but through the operating budget, we're utilizing the modernization funds that we received from the province. Back in 2020, I believe, I'd have to go back to see initially when we received those. And it was over 600,000, less than 700 that we received from the province for modernization for the municipality. it's my understanding that a report has been put in front of council allocating where all of that money is going to be utilized throughout South Huron. So one of those pockets was for business solutions roadmaps, essentially for software upgrades, stuff that we normally, big ticket things it's really hard for us to budget in year and operating because it's going to have such a significant impact on the levy. So we're utilizing these modernization funds to offset the cost of this project. Where you'll see it in the operating budget, it's going to come in as a transfer from reserve. That's where the revenue is coming in for that, and then offset by the expense of contracted services is where you'll see software roll up into is under contracted services.
Well done. Any
Okay.
follow-up,
No,
Councilor?
that's good. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you very much, Maggie. Well done.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Councilor Oak.
Yeah, just a question on the single sourcing. And just wondering if we're actually, does this fall under our procurement bylaw? If because I expect the dollar amounts is probably significant in this. Anything that has an engineer involved is not usually 4 figures. It's more than that. So just wondering if this single sourcing or how this affects our procurement bylaw.
Go ahead, Mr. Giverson.
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. That was a very serious consideration whenever we do single source. So this has been discussed with all of the relevant staff, including the financial services staff, our CAO. My understanding is it is in full compliance with the procurement bylaw. It is single sourcing, which is one of the reasons why we are requesting council approval. But it does comply with the requirements of the procurement bylaw. If you're looking for a rationale why we elected to go this way, it's mostly related to we're under a very tight timeline to get this in place. And we're already seeing development, intensification development come in, and we're not ready for it because we don't have this tool available to us. And as I noted in my report, GM Blue Plan is already hosting our GIS map, and the other big chunk of data to build this model comes from the GIS database. So they are working on our CCTV inspection program where they're doing condition assessments. They are completely on top of our sewer system. They're hosting our GIS mapping. They are also supplying support for our asset management program. So they bring a lot to the table, which allows us to get down the trail a lot further to save both time and money. So that's some of the rationale why we elected to go single source, so we could get this done quicker. And we believe with the work that's already been done, that this is a less expensive route than going to the open market. Otherwise, we wouldn't have put it forward. As staff, like the senior staff, take single sourcing very seriously, and you will not see it put forward that often unless there's a good reason to recommend it.
And I'll just turn to Ms. Sue Carlson. Do you have a comment at all?
All I would comment on is that we did review this as per the procurement bylaw, and we deemed this the recommendation to bring forward to council.
Thank you. And Councilor Oak, any follow-up?
Yeah, and I don't doubt that that was reviewed. I was questioning to make sure it was, and because I know it's not something that we do a lot of times, but it's ironic that there's 2 or 3 requests in here tonight with single sourcing. So that's why I'm just wondering, making sure that we are, because there is reasons that we have policies, and I just want to make sure the procurement policy is that we're all protected here with our own policy.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Neve and then Councillor Dietrich.
Yep, thank you for the report. Just a question. I think it's really important that we move ahead. We need to identify those bottlenecks in the system. The one thing too, my question was mainly just from an asset management perspective too, with identifying the flows, and then the report mentions flow monitoring and refining the accuracy too. So once we get down the road a few years, is there going to still need to be investment in this modeling, or is this kind of like, I know we're going to be refining it in a future year, but is this just kind of a one-off, or does that just depend on what comes down the pipes down the road?
Mr. Giberson, comments?
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. All really good, insightful questions. Because this should be viewed as a living entity. So we're building the model, which is a one-time expense to build it. But there will be expenses in the future. The first that we face once we build the model, and the model is based on theoretical calculations. So you have all the data that's available to plug into the system, but the flows are determined based on theory, not basic engineering, but it's all theoretical flows. So the flow monitoring will give you that refinement of the accuracy, and is very critical in the Exeter sewer system, because we do continue to have high inflow and infiltration. So the I&I issue, it's all water that should not be in the sanitary sewer system. So it's different in different parts of Exeter, and it's a critical component. And the only way you can actually define or determine where it is, how much it is through the actual flow monitoring. So it validates assumptions that are made on the theoretical flows, but it gives you that degree of accuracy. There may be areas within Exeter that we don't have the I&I that we were expecting, and intensification of a certain property is possible. And we may have the opposite effect. There may be areas where the I&I or inflow and infiltration is a lot higher, and you cannot intensify properties without causing harm to somebody. So there will be more costs as you continue in the future, so that you're as we refine this tool. So that is absolutely accurate observation, that this is not just a one-time expense to build the model. The model will have to be validated as we move on in the future.
Thank you. Follow up?
Nope. Thank you very much.
And Councillor Dietrich, you're next. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a simple question. You spoke about, is this in the budget? Is this in the budget? Will these costs be billed back to the user eventually?
Mr. Giberson?
Through you, Mayor Finch, yes, absolutely. The fees and charges bylaw is up for review this year, and that is one cost that we intend to put forward, that for any development that comes forward, that we are required to run their estimated flows through this model to determine if the existing system can handle those flows. We are going to propose a charge to that applicant to use the model. That would be the first thing that's coming. If there's actually upgrades required to the system, what staff are going to propose is that those charges go to that development. We're working on the principle, council approved policy that development pays for development. So there's two things that the staff are planning on recommending be adopted. One, the fee to run something development through this model. The other, if there are actually upgrades to the system that are required because of the intensification of development, it would be recommended that development pays for those upgrades.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garberson. Thank you, Mr. Dietrich. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 10.3.6, I believe, Ms. Masulo calls it.
Okay, this is a budget amendment. That South Huron Council receives a report from Don Giberson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, for the additional engineering services for Huron Park sewage pumping station upgrades. And that South Huron Council amend the GM Blue Plan Engineering Services Agreement to add $67,855 plus HST for professional services related to Huron Park sewage pumping station upgrades. And that South Huron Council approves an amendment to the budget to add a capital budget for the Huron Park sewage pumping station upgrades in the amount of $67,855 plus HST, and authorize this expenditure to be funded from the sewer capital replacement reserve.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oak, second by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Oh, Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, I realize $68,000 is not a big amount when we're talking our sewer systems. However, I'm just thinking in terms of, I know that we're borrowing from our water accounts for some of our sewer expenditures. And when we did the Watson study, we had accounted for those types of loans, which were going to be paid, starting to get paid back around 2025. I'm just wondering if this particular item was one of those looked at with Watson, or is this like new and above and beyond that kind of thinking?
Mr. Giberson?
Through you, Mayor Finch, since I am not the financial expert, I would defer to our Director of Financial Services, but I can assure you that these were all considered before putting this report before Council. So I would defer to Maggie to explain the detail, but this was considered in the overall preparation of the report.
Ms. Delbridge, can we get your expertise on this, please?
Through you, Mayor Finch. So I guess how do I start? Sewer is still utilizing the opportunity to borrow from water to cover its capital costs. It is still well under the amount that was approved, the upset limit that was approved to be spent. So the upset limit that was approved was 4.29 million. And right now, the projected amount to be borrowed at the end of 2023, taking into account the approved 2023 capital projects, is 2.923 billion. So we're still well under that. It is anticipated that the payback from sewer into water will begin in 2024. We'll know better as we start the 2024 budget discussions. But even at the end of the 2023 fiscal year, those sewer reserves are starting to get built up again. Not enough to cover all of its projects for 2023, but it's looking like right now, 2024, the sewer reserve will, and we can begin that repayment in 2024 as well, as how things are looking, but still well under the upset limit that was approved. And I do see, I wasn't here for the Watson review, but I do see the Huron Park station identified through that study.
Okay, great. Thanks, Maggie.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments for our staff? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you very much to everyone. And 10.3.7.
The South Huron Council received the report from Don Giberson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, and Alyssa Keller, Manager of Environmental Services, Re-Engineering Services for Blackbush Line, south of Huron Street to Crediton Road, and that South Huron Council amend the GM Blue Plan Engineering Services Agreement to approve additional costs related to Blackbush Line, south of Huron Street to Crediton Road, in the amount of $31,860 subject to approval of 2024 capital budget.
Is there a mover for that? Moved by Counselor Neeb, second by Counselor Dietrich. Any discussion? Counselor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, okay, so I understand why this is getting a little bit more pricey because we're dividing the project up a bit. So it's really two pieces of work instead of any economies of scale you might get with the one. So I get that. Is it the intention that we would have the engineer start the work like right now, so that we would be ready to go with this other second section in the 2024 year? Is that why we're bringing this forward ahead of a budget cycle?
Mr. Gryberson, comments?
Through you, Mayor French. So what we're proposing is to be proactive and seeking council approval subject to the 2024 budget. So none of these funds will be expended in 2023. The idea here is, while everything is fresh in people's minds, that we did split the Blackbush Line project into two because of the overall anticipated cost of the project.
Right.
So we did that as part through the 2023 budget process. So in doing so, we knowingly incurred additional engineering costs. It would be a separate tender, a separate mobilization. We're not getting the scale of the efficiency on the inspection side as well. So the whole concept here is just for staff to be proactive in getting this before council, but it's still subject to the 2024 budget approval. So when the 2024 budget is presented, these costs will be included in that capital project. The council will have already seen these engineering costs, and we won't have, and we will avoid coming back to council another like a third time in 2024 to obtain approval to expend these engineering funds on GM Blue Plan.
Follow up, Counselor Vaughn.
Understand. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. And you're trying to keep it all top of mind for us. But I don't know. My personal thinking is that if we need it this year, we should be looking at it as budget amendment. And if we don't need it this year, we should be looking at it as part of the 2024 budget process. I really don't particularly, and it's maybe I'm the only counselor, but I don't like pre-approving 2024 or the next year's budget when we've barely just finished the 2023 budget. I don't see the need.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from members of council? Okay, Counselor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I'd have to agree with Councillor Vaughn, like as far as it's almost like an early adoption item here that we're putting in placeholder. I guess the question is the just thinking here, GM Blue Plan, they're going to honor this price in 2024 with this quotation that won't be adjusted in 2024 when they finally move forward with the project?
Mr. Gryberson?
Through you, Mayor Finch. So I just, yes, GM Blue Plan have committed to that price for 2024. But this is not an unusual request. It's fairly common for our engineering services for the current year to include a future year cost. That's been done for several years and will be done with the current engineering RFP that's closing on April 12th. That there's a link between engineering design services and engineering services when they go to construction. So that this is very commonplace for our engineering services, that the design services in 1 year, and then there's a second resolution for the construction related engineering services to be approved, but subject to the budget approval process. So council is still in the driver's seat with if the budget doesn't get approved for 2024, it dies. So it is strictly being proactive in trying to get these services retained at this cost. And this is the way we've been doing our engineering services for several years.
Okay, thank you. Deputy, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Just a question. If we move this forward now and decide not to proceed with the project in 2024, how long is this engineering report good for?
Mr. Iverson?
Thank you.
So this particular project is, sorry, through you, Mayor Finch. So this project is completely designed, because it started its life as one project from the Crediton Road to Dashwood Road. So it's all engineered. The approvals are all in place. In order to create the tender for cutting the project in half, a lot of the work's been done already for this second phase. So the engineering work, the design work, the drawings that never goes stale dated. So the only cost that we face is just the cost of living increases for the engineering staff. So they are guaranteeing that price for 2024, but if it's deferred to 2025, we can't be assured that they will provide those services for that money. But as far as all the work that's already been done, that's all still fine, and it never goes bad.
Follow up, Deputy? Okay. Any other questions at all? Further discussion? Let's see. We have a mover and a seconder. Thank you very much for Mr. Iverson. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's nothing further, call a question. All in favor? And that carries with 6. Thank you very much. Okay. 10.4.1, I believe, Ms. Sue Carlson.
The South Huron Council receives a report from Maggie Delbridge, Acting Treasurer, read 2022 fourth quarter operating variance report for information.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Denemy. Any discussion? Call a question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 10.4.2.
The South Huron Council receives a report from Maggie Delbridge, Acting Treasurer, read 2023 Asset Management Consulting Procurement Authorization. And that South Huron Council approved the single source procurement method with PSD Citywide Inc. for the asset management plan update and consulting. And that South Huron Council authorized staff to enter into a contract with PSD Citywide Inc. for professional asset management coordinator services.
And is there a mover, please? Councillor Neebs, and seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Next one, please.
The South Huron Council receives a report from Alex Wolf, Deputy Clerk, read tender results for opening and closing grave sites for traditional burials. And that South Huron Council accept the tender received from Hoffman's Patient Transfer Limited and authorize the award of a contract for the opening and closing of grave sites for traditional burials.
And is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Neebs, seconded by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Dietrich, go ahead.
This graves here. Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we pay for them, or who pays for them? Like the guy that needs the grave, he pays for it eventually, or?
Ms. Priscilla Carlson? Or do you want to take that, Alex? Go ahead. Sorry.
Through you, Mayor Finch. So when individuals purchase the interment rights to a grave, costs associated with that. They now have the right to be buried there. And once the burial takes place, there is also an opening and closing fee that gets paid. Currently that the cost that we have listed does cover these costs the contractor bills us. So it's fully funded by the individual who's being laid to rest or their family.
So you more or less just supply the service and then you bill it throughout or do whatever.
Through Mayor Finch, yes. So the contractor will open and close the grave. They will bill us, and then the money that we've received from the family or funeral home covers that cost.
Right. So I don't have any say in it. If I wanted to get buried out there, I have to have that grave digger.
Through you, Mayor Finch, it depends on whether you're doing a traditional burial. So this is for traditional, which is the caskets, niche or cremation burial. That is our staff.
Okay. I just thought it depended on how deep you wanted to be buried. Thank you.
You bring a different perspective to the council there, Mr. Dietrich. Thank you though. Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you, everyone. And next one, please. 10.4.4.
That South Huron Council receives a report from Alex Wolf, Deputy Clerk, special event application, Huron Waves Music Festival. And that South Huron Council approve the special event permit, Huron Waves Music Festival in principle. And that South Huron Council authorize the road closure, details as approved by the Manager of Transportation Services of Baldwin Street at Main Street to the end of the property line of Trivet Church from June 1st through to July 3rd, 2023. And that South Huron Council provides storage for pews from the Trivet Church for the duration of the event. And that South Huron Council declares the Huron Waves Music Festival 2023 to be a municipally significant event.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just see the pews being stored. Could you explain that a little bit, where they're being stored and how they're being moved and who's moving them?
So we're working with the event coordinators as part of the special event project, but they will be stored at the Egg building. And we'll be working through those details moving forward as far as the movement and as far as any waivers for the storage piece.
Oh, Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah, just in terms of you're working through details, costs for their account would be part of those details. Costs of moving the pews, like whatever it costs us to actually do that pew movement.
Now, as far as the pew movement, they're only asking for storage. So the presumption at this point is that they will be moving them. But what they've asked for in the special event application is the storage.
Okay.
But we're still confirming all the details. This is just in principle. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. Just the comment that I'm a little concerned about if something happens to those pews and they're in our possession or our building, our storage, that if something were to happen to them, they're irreplaceable. So the responsibility is fairly big. Like all it has to do is upset. So I think that's something that we should really take a look at, and maybe staff, I don't know, I'm not saying we need a report, but just something that staff really looks at very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Ms. Masood Coulson, comment?
Thank you for that comment. And yes, we will be confirming that as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Neeb and then Councillor Oak.
Yeah, more of a comment. I think it's going to be a really fantastic event, and I think it's going to be unique to the area. I'm also really excited because it really lines up well with the sesquicentennial, which will be happening later in June and into July. So it should be a really exciting event, and I think it's maybe could be a great draw for people outside of the community to come into to Exeter too around that time. So yeah.
Yeah, great. And of course, Jeremy Hansen being mentioned today, a local boy from Elsa Craig, is going to be the next person on the Canadian astronaut for the moon. So it's kind of an interesting segue there. Councillor Oak, you had something.
Yeah, the closing of Baldwin Street, I think, I'm all in favor of that for events and just for protection of everybody walking around at the event. I know when there used to be the Oktoberfest and closing of the street at that time, and it's just a lot safer. So yeah, totally in support of that. I agree on the storage issue. I assume our insurance allows us to cover outside storage of items, or that be something that's looked at the same time, I assume. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Moving right along, Ms. Masu calls in 10.4.5, I believe.
The South Huron Council approved the terms of reference for the Heritage Advisory Committee as presented, and that council authorized the recruitment of the citizen members as outlined through the committee recruitment policy, and that the following 2 members of council form part of the selection panel.
Who would like to be on that? Councillor Neeb and
Cannot be the member of council on the committee.
okay. Who would like to be on that? Ms. Masu Carlson, any comments at all? Okay, I see hands going up. Is that your hand up, Mark? Thank you. And Milt, is that, or sorry, Mr. Oak, I saw your hand up.
I think our mayor should sit on that committee.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Denemy and then Mayor Finch, I guess, have been voluntold. Thank you very much. And so we do have a mover for that, please. Do we not? Do we have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Call the question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Neeb, go ahead.
Just more of a comment, and thank you to staff for providing the report about the changes to the Heritage Act through Bill 23. There are some significant changes that will affect the way properties are designated. They also have to be listed before they're designated, so there's new thresholds put in place as well. It also has to meet specific criteria, which is different than before Bill 23. There's also changes to notice to designate within 90 days of a prescribed event. So notice of official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, or draft plan of subdivision application. You can only issue a notice to designate within 90 days, and that property has to be listed. There's also the fact that we have to be reviewing listed properties, and after 2 years, if they've not been designated, you cannot re-list those properties for 5 years. So there's a lot of interesting changes, and I think once the committee gets up and running, we're going to have to start reviewing some of those properties because there is a timeline attached. So
thank you for that. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. There's no further discussion. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 10.4.6.
The South Huron Council receives a report of Rebecca Msuya-Collison, Acting Chief Administrative Officer - Clerk, Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner, IPC, annual reporting for information purposes.
And is there a mover? Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Denemy. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Terrific. 10.4.7, please.
The South Huron Council receives a memo of our Rebecca Msuya-Collison, Acting Chief Administrative Officer - Clerk, dated April 3rd, 2023, regarding municipally owned property known as part of Lot 5 and 6, Concession 3, and part of original road allowance between Lots 5 and 6, Concession 3, designated as Parts 1, 2, and 3, Plan 22R 5455, subject to easement over Part 2, 22R 5445, as in R 196191, surface rights only, Stephen Ward, Municipality of South Huron, County of Huron, And that council declare that the property known as part of lot 5 and 6 concession 3 and part of original road allowance between lots 5 and 6 concession 3 designated as parts 1 and 2 and 3, plan 22R 5455, subject to easement over part 2, 22R 5445, as in R 196191, surface rights only, Stephen Ward, Municipality of South Huron, County of Huron, surplus. And that staff be authorized to initiate the process to dispose of the aforementioned property in accordance with bylaw 42/2013.
And is there a mover for that, please? Counselor Dietrich, second by Counselor Oak. Any discussion? Counselor Dietrich, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did someone ask to purchase that property or?
Ms. Masu Carlson?
We have had an inquiry on it.
Right.
And then as part of, as the disposition of land policy, this is the first step. To
Okay,
declare it surplus, and then we follow the steps after that.
thank you.
Great. Any other questions at all? Counselor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just, from the map, of that skinny little strip of land, it crosses over what looks like a driveway into a parking lot. Yeah, I don't know whose parking lot that is. And I'm just wondering if we were to sell that piece of land, would that necessarily mean that the entryway into that parking lot or slab of cement would no longer be accessible?
Ms. Masu Carlson?
No, actually, the top part of that land is bisecting a particular property, and the rest of that property is in between two different property owners' property. So it isn't going to change the access for anyone. Like if you're asking about the entrance.
Yeah, does that mean that the strip of property that's under discussion right now on both sides of that, they're owned by the same people?
At the top part, closest to the road.
Canada
Yes.
Drive.
It's
Okay.
owned by one owner owns both sides of that. But then further down, it actually separates two different landowners.
Okay, so the same owner owns both sides right by Canada Drive.
Right by Canada Drive, but further back, it's two separate owners.
It's two separate owners. Okay, okay. And yeah, so if I may, assuming we go ahead and declare this surplus, so does that mean that we're going to basically be following our surplus bylaw, or we're going to be going back to whoever asked? I'm assuming it's a next door neighbor or the property that's abutting this land.
Yeah, because there's really only two property owners that would have an interest in this property.
Right.
So,
right.
yeah, so.
Yeah. So do we like get an appraisal and then go for an open bidding kind of thing, or?
Now, because
Do we not know that far along?
No, the appraisal for sure. Yes, we will, but we don't know that. We haven't got that far yet.
Okay.
But a report will be coming back.
Okay.
Steps.
So
Yes.
very much stage one. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Counselor Oak, go ahead, please.
And thank you. And that property has an abandoned pipe that goes through it. There's no responsibility for us to remove that pipe as part of this process.
Ms. Masu Carlson?
No, there hasn't been any no, there isn't any responsibility to remove that.
Any other questions? Okay, not seeing. We have a mover and a seconder. I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. Okay, notice the motion. Are there any notice the motions, madam?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. Items for discussion 12.1. Item 1 and number 2. Any want to discuss item 1? Okay, go ahead, Councilor Vaughn.
Yeah, just a comment, a couple of comments. I really liked hearing from them in terms of what the progress is and that there's 13% of South Huron people riding it or at least being picked up in the South Huron area. So it looked like things were moving along in a positive direction. I found the financial picture that they presented to us kind of interesting as well. I recognize it was a very small financial picture and that next year will be probably one much more robust. The one thing that I came away from in that meeting was just in terms of capital expenditures, what those might look like over time. But I can wait until next year when they come back and talk to us about the reality of 2025.
That's right. Okay, nothing further on item number 1 then. Mr. Neeb, go ahead.
Just more of a question, because I was trying to do just a little bit of research on the gas tax that they were mentioning for down the road. And is the gas tax that they're mentioning different from the OCIF?
Maggie, do you want to take that?
Sure, I can.
ahead.
Through you, Mayor Finch. So yes, it is different. It is the provincial gas tax. So actually the province of Ontario has a grant funding that they call gas tax, not to be confused with the federal. It's not called gas tax anymore. It's the Canada Community Building Fund, which is administered by AMO. So it is a whole separate grant, and it is only available to municipalities that support public transit. So right now we're not receiving any funds from that gas tax that they were speaking of.
Thank you very much. That helps a lot. Thank you.
Good. Any other comments? Okay. Okay, and item number 2, do you want to discuss item number 2? Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, there was a couple requests that they had about potentially waiving the fee for the event, the municipal significant event, and I'd like to think that we could support the waiving of that fee as part of this. And then the other was the ask about displaying some historical items and things in the Verity Room and the council chambers, and I would be in support of that.
Very good. Mr. Sue Paulson?
The foundation will be submitting an application under special events. So there will be a report coming back with those resolutions included for council consideration.
Do we need a resolution at this point then? Or
No, I think it's fine. We can wait for the report to come back. And then it's all consolidated if that works.
I'm happy with that, Councillor Oak. Okay, and I've offered my services to be here during that time period, dressed in period costume and less, so it'd be fun. Councillor Oak.
Just a question on timeline of when that report would be coming back to council, because time keeps ticking along here and the event will be here before we know it, sort of thing. So
Yeah, certainly. We haven't received the application yet, but we are in contact, weekly contact with the organizers.
Okay, okay, thank you. Nothing further on that. Very well, move on to new business. Is there any new business at this time? 13.1. Ms. Masula Collison.
To set 2 committee of the holes, one for the state of the infrastructure that was rescheduled from February, and ABCA as well as the municipal insurer. So that South Huron Council set the following committee of the whole meetings. April 19th, 2023 at 4 p.m. That's for the state of the infrastructure. And April 24th, 2023 at 4 p.m.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Oak, seconded by Councillor Vaughn. Any discussion? Call a question, all in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. Mayor and councillor comments and announcements. Are there any comments from members of council? Councillor Vaughn.
Yes. Don't remember the exact day now. It's all a blur, but did attend the Lambton Shores Mayor's Breakfast, which was actually a joint Lambton Shores South Huron Mayor's Breakfast. So both mayors had an opportunity to speak. Our mayor, George Finch, did an excellent job giving a recap of everything that we're up to. And Deputy Mayor Dietrich piped in there with talking about our speed spy and what we were hoping to accomplish with that, particularly around the Highway 24 corridor. I did take copious notes from everything that Doug Cook had to say, but unfortunately left my little scribble pad at home, which is a bummer. The only thing that I can really tell you about that sticking in my head is that the bridge coming over the Ausable River, Doug did provide a little bit of an update on that. Looks like there's still negotiating for acquisition of certain lands close to that intersection, and that's not done. So they may or may not be starting this year. And if they do start this year, it won't be till the fall, but just by what Doug said or didn't say, it sort of sounded like they're kind of thinking it's going to move into next year. So I promise next meeting I'll bring my notes. Can't remember the rest.
Look forward to that. And Councillor Oak, go ahead.
Just a question on that. Is there any timelines with the government funding that they're getting for that bridge that it has to be completed by a certain date?
I'm sure there's a timeline. Doug didn't actually give us a date. I don't recall him giving a date, except he did give assurances that whether they started in September or next spring, it would still be okay in terms of within the window for the grants.
Yeah, I don't think they want to lose the grant on that.
What's that?
I don't think they want to lose the grant.
No, I think they'll pull out whatever stops they have to keep that grant and need it.
Good. And any other comments from members of council? Councillor Oak, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple things. Sunday, April 23rd is the Kirkton Woodham Optimus Fish Fry. It's always a well-attended event coming up. So in past, they've had over 1,000 people attend. So anyways, it's coming up. And just wanted to comment that I've had a number of calls in the last week or 10 days on our gravel roads, and they're needing some attention drastically. I know the wet weather hasn't helped matters, but as soon as we can get out there, we need to do some repairs, significant repairs. So it's been a tough winter on the roads because of the lack of freezing for long periods of time. But anyways, we need to put all hands on deck and get things going again. I'm sure some others around here have maybe heard some comments as well. So.
Okay, thank you. And Deputy, go ahead, please.
Just to comment on that, Councillor Oak. Yeah, I did hear a lot of comments, but I see, because I travel the one quite a bit, they're working on it. Weatherman's not cooperating with them either. So they're doing the best they can from what I see. So guess we'll just have to wait.
Yeah, if I recall, there's I think 160 kilometers of gravel road, so it'll take a while to get it all done. 350 kilometers total, I believe. But regardless, they certainly do work hard when the weather cooperates. Any other comments? Seeing any? Okay, yeah. So again, as far as my take goes, I was at the mayor's breakfast, as Councillor Vaughn mentioned, and thank you for speaking that day too. I put you on the spot there, but you did a great job as usual. And thanks to Deputy Mayor for speaking about the spy camera. That was well received. We had a good crowd there, around 70 people, I think. And of course, we have a great relationship with Lambton Shores, and we want to continue that. So we're very, very fortunate to have great leadership there. And another thing I've been up to, I did a presentation to 3 civics classes this past week at the South Huron District High School, the grade 10s. They was well received, lots of interaction with the kids because I made it an interactive presentation. So they seem to really enjoy it. And then this past week, I was at the Spirit of Community Celebration at Stratford with the different members of the community for the United Way. And it was very well attended. So it was a good networking opportunity that day. That's about all I have. There's other things I've been up to also, but enough said. Any other comments? Not seeing. Very well. We'll move on to communications. Go ahead, Ms. Masula Carlson.
15.1. 15.2.
Pull that.
15.3. 15.4,
We'll pull that.
15.5, 15.6, 15.7, 15.8, 15.9, 15.10.
Okay, very well. So 15.2, I think everybody's had an opportunity to read that. Mr. Giverson, if he's still on the line, I don't know if he is or not. Mr. Giverson, would you, I think you know where I stand with this letter. But anyways, I'd like to hear your opinion, please.
Yes, through you, Mayor Finch. This is a very interesting situation and precedent setting that we have one of the utility companies that now wants to implement a charge for every locate that they perform. And the concern from the staff is there's legislation in place that requires, it's mandatory to obtain the locate. There's liability attached to locates. And there are, with a fee being implemented, there is a considerable expense to come back to the municipality because we are required to get a locate to install a road sign. So from the most straightforward work to the most complex, this will add a considerable cost to the municipality. The other thing is very objectionable is we, the municipality, are hosting these utilities infrastructure in our right of way. So they are a guest on our property and they are proposing to implement a fee for us to pay them to locate a infrastructure that they're responsible for. And they have started down a very slippery slope here. When they announced the implementation of the fee, every other utility company started talking about implementing a fee. So I can do the math very quickly. For one single locate in one spot, the locate cost could exceed the cost to actually do the work. So if we were putting a sign in or repairing a water shutoff, something straightforward as that, we could have, if everybody jumps on the bandwagon with this, we could face $1,000 in locate costs to perform that work. Now there has been an update. Enbridge Gas has put a pause because they've received so much negative feedback. They have put a pause on implementing this fee, but this is an extremely important matter for the municipality, and it does need widespread support.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Giver.
I can answer any other questions about.
No, I appreciate that. And you and I have had conversation about this. It's rather disappointing that Enbridge would try this in the first place. That's what I find. And because we own the property that they're actually installing services on. So it costs us money to have them have their items on our property. So I look to members of council if they have any discussion on that. Councilor, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with the comments that have been made here on this. And I would definitely support the resolution in that's being proposed here. I noticed in the report or in the comment for Central Huron, it was $35,000 that they're estimating it might cost the municipality of Central Huron. I've got to think that we're probably in that ballpark or potentially even more. That's big numbers when you start talking 0.5% on the levy sort of thing, type of scenarios, or if it's to the user pay budget, whatever, either or, it's a lot of money, so.
Councillor Need.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think it's ridiculous that we have to pay any fee to a utility company to locate their service on our property.
And I've had some conversation with members of the public, and they're quite honestly, some of them are outraged, the fact that it's even suggested that they would do this. So we have a mover and a second there. I take it then. Support AORs. Okay. Any further discussion? Deputy, go ahead.
Is there some way that we can charge back a leasing fee to those? Because it's on our property. They got their pipes on our property. So maybe that needs to be brought up to them also.
Well, actually, Mr. Giverson and I are going to be having further discussions about that very item. So, but that's when he gets back from vacation. Mr. Giverson, you'll keep note of that?
Absolutely, Mayor Finch.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Unseen. Okay, very much. Thank you very much. We have a mover and a seconder, but we'd like to have that motion read, if that's okay, please.
The South Huron Council support the resolution as proposed by the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors in their letter of request dated March 27th, 2023.
Thank you. So moved, so seconded. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you very much for that. 15.4. So I was speaking with Mayor Martin Reesma last week, and I would like to go to that. I will be going to it anyways. Just want to support from council so they know I'm going to that. Any questions on that? And do I need a resolution at all, Ms. Quick?
That's correct.
Okay, could I get a mover and a second on that, please? Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Denemy. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 15.5, Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please. Yeah, can we have a mover for Councillor Vaughn to attend? Councillor Oak, second by Councillor Neeb. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Oak, please.
I program in the past looks very attractive. Just the timing is bad for me. But I think it's a great, and it's a 25th anniversary one too. So yeah, so yeah. Sounds like they've got a great speaker lineup again. So
yeah. Yeah, and I've got a Board of Health meeting that day, so we have a mover and a seconder, and you're happy to go. That's terrific. If there's no further discussion, I'll call a question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you very much. Moving right along, 15.8, I turn to.
If I could just ask one question before we move on. The early bird $120 price tag ends on April 5th. So that's this week. So Rebecca, would you like me to go ahead and book this, or do you want to book it, or how do you want to handle it?
We can all confirm that we will complete the registrations.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And thank you again, Councillor Vaughn, for doing that. 15.8, back to Councillor Vaughn. Ms. Masu.
Staff are working on a report, and we're going to bring it back after the priority setting. However, in speaking to staff on this particular resolution, they did suggest to support it because designing an in-house program to regulate and license does come with substantial costs. And championing AMPAC as the authority for designating this to capture the short-term rentals as commercial versus in residential could be a more effective solution.
Follow up, Councillor Vaughn, go ahead.
Okay, and so Rebecca, do you envision staff is going to come back with a report about why they would like to go that route? Because I know in this neighborhood, there's been a couple of different ways to go with short-term rental. Lambton Shores has already got theirs. I don't think they've classified these properties as commercial versus residential. They do have a rather intensive administrative process that they go through every year to give the licenses out. So we could support this resolution, but de facto we're making a statement that we believe these should be commercial properties, and I don't know if we know enough.
To the mayor. And it's not necessarily an either or, because there are some reasons, maybe more perhaps by law enforcement reasons, that municipalities do license and regulate short-term rentals. So it's not necessarily an either or situation. So there will be a report coming back on the short-term rentals. If council would like a report back on this resolution and wants to put a hold on it and bring back with further information for next meeting, we can do that as well.
Councillor Vaughn, your thoughts on that?
I hate to make staff go off and do different one-off little reports, but just because we might be the only ones in the immediate neighboring municipalities, I'm thinking to look at a report would probably be a good thing before we come to conclusion.
Okay, Councillor, go ahead, Ms.
I'm not even sure what Blue Water is doing at this point, except that they're reviewing things.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead, you go ahead.
And if council does decide for a report back, could we get a resolution for that too, please?
Absolutely, yes. And then we'll go to Councillor Oak. And
Yeah, I would like to see a report. I think just in light, just on the weekend, we were on the computer and there's the number of Airbnbs in South Huron is increasing, and there's a lot of new houses that are turning into Airbnbs when they're not selling at the moment. So I think looking forward to the overall report that's going to come back as well. So I think we need to address this, but I think I would be in agreement to have a report to come back for this item.
okay, I'll
For
turn
sure.
to Councillor Neeb. Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
I agree. I think from a process standpoint, supporting the resolution would make sense, but I think we need to wait to get all of the information back. One of the items that came up when we were talking about short-term rentals in the past was some municipalities have created these taxes, but it creates a whole level of process and staffing in order to ensure that it's being followed, and then additionally another level of transparency too, and it could potentially create issues too. So I like the idea of MPAC having some input into this because of it being separate and the same across the entire province. So
Okay, thank you. So Ms. Masood Paulson, do you have a resolution there?
Let council direct a report back on item 15.8.
Councillor Vaughn, Councillor Neeb, any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. Great discussion on that. 15.9, I turn to Councillor Vaughn again.
Obviously, Essex was pretty busy this month. Okay, so on this one, this has to do with tax sales, and so it seems that we are when we collect money from selling a property as a result of a tax sale, we are allowed to get our tax money back. But the differential between the tax money and the actual sale of the property is going to the province. And so we might have some costs in there administrative, but we're not allowed to recoup them. So we're basically doing work for a higher level of government. So I'm never too happy to see the province of Ontario taking money away from us, which is what they appear to have done here. So I'm in support of supporting Essex here in this resolution, and I'm wondering if our staff have already given this resolution some consideration as well.
Ms. Masuda Carlson.
And staff have considered this resolution, and it is for to surplus the surplus funds. So we can get our legal costs, but any of the surplus funds, if there are any funds remaining in court after 10 years, they're deemed forfeited to the Crown. Formerly, under section 386 of the Municipal Act, the municipality was allowed to apply for that, for those surplus funds.
Thank you very much, Ms. Masuda Carlson. Any comments? I'd like, Mr. Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I would support that. We would, or I agree, we should support this resolution.
Okay, Ms. Masuda Carlson, do you want to read that?
Moved by Councillor Oak that the municipality of South Huron support the town of Essex resolution, the reinstatement of legislation permitting a municipality to retain surplus proceeds from tax sales.
So moved by Councillor Oak and second by Councillor Vaughn. Okay, very good. Any discussion? I guess they want to do it the other way around. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
That makes sense.
that's fine. Anyway, we're all friends here. So Councillor Vaughn, then second by Councillor Oak. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor. And that carries with 7. Thank you. Great discussion. Recommendation, Mr. Masuda Carlson, on the receiving communication.
The South Huron Council received communication items not otherwise dealt with.
And a mover, please. Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Demi. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor. And that carries with 7. Thank you. No closed session, therefore no report from closed session. Bylaws 18.1, Ms. Masuda Carlson.
First and second reading, that South Huron Council gives first and second reading to bylaw number 16/2023, being a bylaw to provide for the Kinst Night Municipal Drain 2023 in the municipality of South Huron.
And a mover, please. Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Oak. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor. And that carries with 7. Thank you. 19, please.
That South Huron Council give first, second, and third and final reading to bylaw 17/2023, being a bylaw to confirm matters addressed at the council workshop meeting of March 13, 2023 and April 3rd, 2023 regular council meeting.
And is there a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor. And that carries with 7. 20.
Okay, the South Huron Council hereby adjourns at 8:17 p.m. to meet again on April 17th, 2023 at 6, or at the call of the chair.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor.